Alright, so in this episode of the Stroker Saga, we're going to be dropping the lower unit and changing the impeller. We're also going to be pulling the oil tank and making sure the oil level sensor float is working correctly. So stay tuned for this episode and stay tuned for the next ones in the series. We're going to be taking this boat from sitting for years and years to run it around the lake. Cooling system.
This is a Bob's Machine nose cone that was added to the front of this lower unit. They weld them on and then they fill them with an epoxy, and it moves the water pickup from down here to right here. You'll have to get the camera down there so that it can pick up water well at high speed. The holes are right under here. And that enables you to get good water pressure at high speed, and it also enables you to get the propeller, right, probably the water line way to here, which would be below the old pickup. That's some cracked sealer on there. It's just cosmetic, but it enables you to pick up water, bring it up through here, and then into the engine that way. It gives you better or adequate pressure at high speeds with the motor up high. And that pointy gear case gives you supposedly 5 to 7 miles an hour in top speed.
Hold the other side off too. Pretty gunky in there. Easy.
Probably pretty heavy, huh?
Yeah, it is. Looks like I might have been rubbing right there.
Looks like most of the stuff blew out.
Yeah, there was a rat's nest in there.
Looks like the seals are leaking.
Alright, so the gas in the fuel tank looked terrible, so we're going to put some new gas in, pump it out, hopefully get most of it out before we change the fuel lines. So we're going to go ahead.
We've already pumped it once. So.
Yeah, we got all the original gas out, but we're going to put new gas in to clean it out. So what are we looking at here?
So we're unhooking the shift linkage so we can drop the lower leg, and part of the trick is that's reverse, neutral, but you can see in forward it lifts it up as high as possible, and then you can put a flexible U-joint on your socket. I put a little tape on there so it holds it kind of straight, and then you can undo the 3/8 inch bolt, and that holds the shift linkage in. Once that bolt is removed, then you're free to drop the lower. Reverse, neutral, forward. The best way to remove the bolt for the shifter linkage, it's a 3/8 inch bolt by the way, is to put the shifter in forward. It raises it slightly and it's easier to reach in there with a ratchet on a flexible drive and remove it.
We're going to take off the lower unit, and it all starts here. Got the handy dandy grabbers.
Almost. Voila.
Alright, so lifting it back up on the jack plate, we're going to drop the lower unit now. Alright, so we had the oil tank in there. We removed it so that we could clean all the gunk out. We used gasoline and also took the time to use gasoline to clean all the rat poop off the top. And it worked pretty well. Looks pretty good. And now what are we doing now?
So we've got an old gasket here that looks like it's intact, a cork gasket. But this stuff is called Easy Turn. It used to be called Fuel Lube. but it's a neat stuff that we use in aircraft maintenance, and it's fuel proof, and it kind of has the consistency of a very thick grease, but we'll put a little bit on here and it'll sort of give us a double seal. So if that cork gasket wants to weep a little bit, it probably won't, by just putting a little bit of this on the sealing surface. Kind of a neat little trick, and it never hardens, and it's not soluble by gasoline or oil. So it's just a really neat sealant. I'm surprised I've never seen it for sale anyplace except for aircraft supply houses. A little tube like this is kind of pricey, but this tube will last you a lifetime. I think it's about 20 bucks for a tube of this stuff. Easy turn, you can get it at Aircraft Spruce if you're so inclined. So this dealy bob goes in like that. Check and make sure that the float is free.
What?
This float, I think, is supposed to move up and down. Or no, maybe it's just, oh, it's just this right here. This little sensor. That's the alarm that lets you know if you're getting low on oil. And we're going to go ahead and replace this oil supply line with a new one, which should be in the next couple days.
Cool. Some progress. You can see the bottoms what the top looked like. But what you can't see won't hurt you.
That's just staining that doesn't want to come off. Just for this rudder zinc thingy.
Oh, the rudder zinc's going to be out of whack. So you can see the...
Well, we'll have to guesstimate how it came back on. Alright, now it ought to come loose. Sand. There it is. Alright. Cool.
A lot of crud in there.
Little baby seashell, or a snail shell actually is what it looks like. Should like pressure wash all this off. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say so.
Alright, I'll get this in, you get that in.
Alright, so we got the impeller off.
So from the top, it looks like it spins clockwise. So when we put the new one in, we want to make sure we get that right.
How does it look? Hard as a rock?
It is hard as a rock, yeah. Not too bad. It probably would have worked. But the new one will not be bent at all. It'll be straight vanes. So there you go. It doesn't look like it has a lot of wear on it. So this motor didn't have a lot of hours. You can see it's just barely worn. So we want to remember that we've got this Woodruff key here. It's kind of a special shape that goes like that. And this O-ring holds it in place when the impeller goes on. We've got a new one of those. Then we've got the bottom plate with a baby dead earwig in it. That doesn't look too badly worn. A little bit of grooving there from some sand getting in there. And we're going to get that gasket off.
It's coming apart.
Yeah, we're not going to reuse it, so sometimes they come off easy, sometimes they don't. You want to be careful when you remove gaskets on aluminum, not to scratch the surface, but this little flat blade on the X-Acto knife is an excellent tool. And you can just kind of usually gently wiggle it underneath the pieces. Whoops, got to get that out. But usually once you get an edge lifted, they'll kind of come right off. And if they're really stuck, I find if you use an electric heat gun, get them warm, that helps them come off easy too. And we're going to want to clean this surface up and make sure that this is a nice smooth surface.
This is the rebuild kit.
What comes in it. So a couple of gaskets. So I think while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and replace that seal, the seals in that lower housing that we haven't taken apart yet. And this kit also comes with a new cover. Looks like it's fairly well made. It's heavy, it must be stainless steel. There's a new drive shaft seal right there.
Impeller.
Yeah, definitely looks a little different. Ah, this one comes with a different groove, different alignment dowel. Hopefully it will fit. So that slides in like that. Let's go see if that fits. It doesn't. Great. Yeah, it's one of the thrills of aftermarket. They're about the same diameter. So that's not good.
Alright, so we have the correct impeller kit.
183392.
Okay.
Which is what the last one was, but it was a Sierra knockoff. It wasn't a Sierra brand. This looks like it can be replaced pretty easily. You should clean, wipe these shafts off. The shift shaft seal. So this gasket goes on there. Let's just make sure it fits. Looks like it does. So it's a tiny bit of silicone on both sides of the gaskets, the way I like to do it. It also makes removing the gasket, if you have to do it again, much easier. And sometimes the gasket won't break and you can actually even reuse it. So there we go, just a very fine, very thin bit. There we go. It's your wear plate. Which way does that go? I think it goes.
I'm gonna put it on since your gloves are on.
It goes, you see that it's got a little rough edge
It
there?
goes this way, yeah.
I think it goes like that.
You can tell by looking at it too.
This O-ring goes next. Put a little bit of grease on this. Looks like probably just a little dab of silicone to hold it in place. This guy goes like that. This guy goes down like this. So the shaft goes that way. Yep, it's locking on. Put a little bit of Vaseline on the propeller tips and a little bit on this plate where it's just going to rub. Try not to get it on this gap where the O-ring's going to go. This guy goes on next. As we get close, I think you rotate the shaft clockwise.
Okay.
Just to pull it in there. Make sure that our O-ring stays in place. You want to turn the shaft while I push down on this. Turn the shaft clockwise. Alright, let's see if we can get the screws started. Nice finger tight. Put one on right there.
Vaseline fingers really help.
Definitely a two-person job. Snug but not too tight. Lube on that as that goes up and down. Be ready to go back in, I think.
Next time on the Stroker Saga.
To decide if we're going to do something with those.
We don't know if it leaks yet though.
From a cosmetic point of view, it looks pretty bad.